Yo, sales, development comedians. Hey, I was, this is just Brendan again talking to you from the Revival Food Hall here in Chicago, Illinois. Pardon me, Revival Food Hall. Goodness. Here's what I wanted to talk about today. I was writing an article on Quora that had a lot of interest. It was like, what separates the top 1% of salespeople from the other 99% of salespeople? And here's the thing: it's not one thing; it's a whole bunch of things. But one of the things that separates the top 1% of salespeople from the other 99% is something I've talked about before, and it's attitude and demeanor. And here's the thing: sales is about leadership because sales, like comedy, actually is about frame control. And you're introducing concepts, you're getting permission and commission from the people you're speaking with to follow you through a conversation tunnel, through from one thing to the next. You're leading them into a sales process. And in comedy, you're doing the same thing. You're doing premises, they have conclusions that leads you to the next thing. If they're not on board with one, they can't advance with you. It's how a comedian loses the audience, and it's quite frankly why a prospect stops talking to a salesperson. So what I want to talk about is basically this. This frame control is the same thing as leadership. So what are frames? They're a concept from neuro-linguistic programming, which is, you can Google, which is how the science of how data interacts, or how words interact with the brain. And basically the frame is the context of something that you're talking about, or of any data that gives it meaning. So what you want to do is control the frame, and if you're controlling the frame, you're constantly controlling sort of the interpretation of the data. And that's important because that's what leaders do. They circumscribe the space that people are moving into by talking about it, and salespeople are actually doing the same. Where am I going with this? Good question. If it's about leadership, it's about frame control, and one of the things that's important to frame control is attitude and demeanor. And people who are frustrated, people who are sad, people who are angry, people who are trying to push an agenda on someone, makes them, the prospect, feel uncomfortable. It makes an audience also feel uncomfortable. It's why a comedian who gets on stage and starts acting very strange and having odd energy actually prevents the audience from laughing, even though the same jokes that they're saying could be said by someone who's calm, and they would laugh. So the thing is this: if you're a salesperson, you need to focus on trying to remain calm and in a good state. That will help you actually invite someone to follow you through the sales process, because they want to follow someone who feels confident in leadership. See how I drew that all together there? So your best bet is to focus as much as you can on trying to raise your state, try to focus on being positive, have a process and work through it. That's just one of the things that separates the top 1% of salespeople from the other 99%. I'll talk probably more tomorrow and the next day about the other things that do, but this is a big one, and it's a good one to take for the day. So do whatever you have to do to feel comfortable, to get in state, to feel positive, to value add through your attitude, through your demeanor, through your actions. Even if someone isn't on board with you, that's okay, because you're going to filter in through your very attitude the people who are on board with you. So take care, have a good day, and do whatever you can to try and make yourself positive.